Bills Colts, next game that I want to hit here. This one's in Indianapolis. Obviously, we had the roller coaster of Anthony Richardson getting benched before last game, and we sort of talked about that last week. Now it is still Joe Flacco here, and I honestly think that the matchup that matters to me is the Colts just have to get their run game right. That, to me, is so paramount with this, because is Joe Flacco going to light the world on fire for you? No, but I do think that he could be a game manager type of quarterback for you.
Sure.
I do think that veteran savviness and wisdom, if you will. Not that it's going to be perfect. I'm not saying that, but he can be more predictable is the wrong word. On schedule, efficient.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be as boom or bust like it was with Anthony Richardson. It felt like either Richardson was hitting a big time throw 40 yards down the field, or it was an incomplete pass. For Flacco, it could be a little bit more layered than that. You can hit stuff short, you can hit it intermediate, over the middle, you can hit those deep shots, but it'll probably not probably, it will be less than what they saw with Richardson. The thing that's got to be better is just running the football. And when you look at last game, 13 carries for 47 yards for Jonathan Taylor. And since, like, with Flacco being in and out of the lineup, we have some different numbers here. Colts run game with Flacco starting weeks 4, 5, 6, and 9. In weeks 4, 6, and 9, they had a negative EPA per rush. In week 5, it was positive, but it was their 4th best one of the season. So there's just no doubt about it. I mean, when you look at Jonathan Taylor's rushing grade as well, 51.9 with Flacco as the starter, 73.4 with Anthony Richardson as the starter. It is different when the defense has to account for what Richardson can do, not just as a runner, but also taking the top off of the defense. That deep ball threat was a legitimate threat every single place. For as much as you want to sit here and you say, oh, the completion percentage was really low, I understand that. I'm not trying to write that off. But defenses had to account for it basically every play, because this dude's got a superhuman arm. So when you have the ability to push the ball deep down the field consistently, what's going to lighten the boxes? These defenses, they got to play a little bit deeper. They can't play press. They've got to play 2 safeties. They've got to have contingency plans, whether you're going deep to the left or the right. They've got to be on their P's and Q's there, and that just means that there are less defenders in the box. When they're a lighter box, guess what? Especially with the Colts offensive line, you're going to run the ball a lot better with a guy like Jonathan Taylor. You've got to figure out how to get him going when Flacco is now the quarterback. How can we lighten the box? How can we make things easier to run the football the way that we need to? To me, that's the matchup that matters here, because if the Colts don't have that, they're not going to have enough firepower to beat the Bills, and they're not going to have enough firepower, in my opinion, to beat a lot of teams down the stretch if Flacco is going to be the guy. So that's where they've got to really get right. The Bills, they're not really a great team to have a get-right game. They're 6th in the NFL when it comes to limiting EPA per rush, so they're pretty dang good at it. They're just a very sound defensive group. They're comfortable playing in those too high situations. Maybe they'll rotate it a little bit down to be more aggressive when defending the run, but it feels like they don't have to, given the numbers that I just named there. So that, to me, is a big-time matchup that matters. If the Colts are going to be competitive in this one, which is a 4-point spread in favor of the Buffalo Bills, even though it is in Indianapolis, it's going to come through them being a lot better running the football with a more, I would say, traditional offense than the boomer bust one that was with Anthony Richardson. What about you? What do you got?
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out between the two quarterbacks, just given the fact that you look at this offensive line in Indianapolis, and this is one of the best offensive lines in football, if not the best. And they have the top run blocking grade at 81.7 in the league. So it's not because of the offensive line that this run game hasn't gotten going, but it's more of what you said, is that teams aren't respecting Joe Flacco in the deep ball. So yes, you can afford to load the boxes a little bit more. But then that also comes down to, can we pass block for Joe Flacco to give him time to try and push the ball down the field to then open up that run game in the way that it is again when Anthony Richardson is in the game. And that's something that the Colts offensive line is really good at too. Can this Bills defensive line then overwhelm them to kind of disrupt all of that and leave this Colts offense where we've seen it under Joe Flacco? And listen, the Bills have, Gregory Rousseau has 37 pressures on that Bills defensive line. That's tied for the 7th most in the NFL. This is a formidable pass rush. Even with kind of all of the changes that they've undergone this season, that's something that is going to matter, I think, a great deal. So just my overall matchup that matters is how this Colts O-line fares against the D-line. And specifically in the pass blocking aspect of everything, which the Colts offensive line currently ranks 2nd with an 82.2 PFF grade there. It just needs to then translate to Joe Flacco trying to push the ball down the field, making this defense respect that and opening that up so that they're kind of on their heels a little bit more.
I'll go back to you for plus factor. You can kick it off with plus factor. Who you got there?
I actually have this with the Colts corners, but specifically when it comes to getting interceptions.
Yes, love
Because
it.
the Bills have been quote unquote lucky as far as interceptions go. They only have two INTs. Josh Allen has two INTs this season, which is tied for the third fewest, but he's had 12 turnover worthy plays, which is tied for the fifth most. So that's a huge discrepancy there that's just kind of waiting for another team to capitalize on, where can you turn these turnover worthy plays that Josh Allen is inevitably going to throw into something productive for your own team? And that's going to be up to, Kenny Moore, Samuel Womack, Jalen Jones. Kenny Moore has the fourth highest graded PFF grade among corners, 80.5. So he is a very kind of guy that I would look towards to be the one to maybe turn this luck in favor of Indianapolis in this game, at least. I think that's going to be something that you're going to have to do if you have a prayer against the Buffalo Bills right now.
Yeah, the Colts, 7 interceptions as a team this season, 3 dropped interceptions as well, which I think both are top 10 in the league. And so they have the ability to do it. I agree with you completely. My plus factor in this one was, in fact, Josh Allen, because if he plays this same style, you figure the ball's not going to bounce their way as much as it has when it comes to the difference of turnover-worthy plays to actual turnovers that we have seen in the game. So if things regress a little bit towards getting closer to what the true turnover-worthy plays represent, well, all of a sudden you win the turnover battle and you're in Indianapolis. You're at home. Certainly, if you can run the ball a little bit better, now we're talking about a tight contest there. Walt in the chat also wants me to shout out Ray Davis, who is an X factor for the Buffalo Bills. I agree. Just run game overall, I think, is a big deal for the Buffalo Bills, because now they got a lot of guys that are very comfortable having the ball in their hands, whether it's Ray Davis, whether it's Ty Johnson, whether it's James Cook, or even Josh Allen himself. They're a very, very balanced football team right now, and that's why the Buffalo Bills have one of the best records at 7-2.